Welcome, car lovers. The question we must ask ourselves today is not whether a car can be fast. We live in an era where even a household refrigerator, if fitted with enough copper wiring and lithium, can out-accelerate a 1980s Formula One car. No, the question is one of permanence. Does a vehicle possess the soul required to outlast its own technology? For decades, the automotive world has been gripped by a fever, a desperate, sweating rush toward a digital future that often forgot the human being behind the wheel. We were told that the Taycan was the future. We were told that the sleek, low-slung electric plaything was the new definitive Porsche. But as I stand before the 2026 Porsche Panamera EV, I suspect we were all victims of a very expensive, very silent distraction. The Taycan was a magnificent experiment, but it was a car built for the Silicon Valley set. Men who value the latest software update over the mechanical honesty of a well-weighted steering rack. This Panamera EV, however, feels like the return of the adult to the room. It suggests that the Taycan was merely the prologue, and that the real story of the electric Porsche begins here, with a car that respects heritage more than it respects the hype. To understand where we are going, we must first look back at where we have been. The lineage of the four-door Porsche is a storied, often turbulent one. In the late 1980s, the engineers in Stuttgart toyed with the 989, a concept that looked like a 911 that had been stretched on a medieval rack. It was a beautiful idea, but Porsche lacked the courage to build it then. Instead, we had to wait until 2009 for the first Panamera. It was a car that possessed the face of a sports car and the rear end of a startled hippopotamus. It was ungainly, yet it was magnificent to drive. It proved that you could carry 4 adults in total comfort while still possessing the ability to frighten the life out of them on a mountain pass. It was a car for the man who had outgrown his 911, but had not outgrown his dignity. Over the years, Porsche refined that shape, honing it into the sleek Executive Express we see today. But the arrival of this electric variant marks a fundamental shift. It is the moment the internal combustion engine finally hands the baton to the battery. And it does so not with a whimper, but with a calculated Germanic precision that makes the Taycan look like a spent firework. Observe the silhouette of this new machine, in an age where most electric vehicles look like bars of soap that have been left in a warm shower too long. The Panamera EV retains a sense of architectural integrity. There is a deliberate muscularity to the rear haunches, a reminder that this car is rear-biased in its soul, even if its power comes from a silent flow of electrons. The proportions are classical. It does not shout about its environmental credentials with blue accents or peculiar aerodynamic wheels. It simply sits on the tarmac with a formidable presence. The designers have understood that a man of a certain age does not wish to look like he is driving a prop from a science fiction film. He wants a car that looks like it was designed by people who understand the golden ratio. The way the light catches the C-pillar, the subtle tension in the front wings. It is less like a gadget and more like a piece of sculpture. It is art with a purpose. But as we know, the exterior is merely the suit. The true character of a luxury car is found within. And it is here that Porsche has engaged in a fascinating battle between progress and tradition. Let us speak plainly about the modern interior. For years, manufacturers have been hiding every functional button behind layers of confusing, fingerprint-smudged glass. They call it minimalism. I call it a dereliction of duty. In the Panamera EV, there is a palpable tension between these two worlds. Yes, there are screens, far too many for my liking, including one for the passenger, so they can distract themselves with telemetry while you try to navigate a treacherous corner. However, Porsche has retained a sense of tactile honesty where it matters most. The drive mode selector remains a physical dial on the steering wheel, a wonderful mechanical click that grounds the experience. The leather is not some vegan substitute made from recycled plastic bottles. It is thick, fragrant, and stitched with the kind of care usually reserved for bespoke Savile Row tailoring. It feels substantial. When you pull the door shut, it does not clack. It thuds with the finality of a bank vault. This is what the Taycan lacked. The Taycan felt thin, a car designed to be light and agile. This Panamera feels heavy in the best possible way. It feels expensive. However, we must address the BEBs that often surrounds these modern cockpits. The haptic feedback panels on the center console are a minor grievance. They require a deliberate press, but they will never match the effortless satisfaction of a real physical toggle switch. There is a sense that the engineers wanted to give us buttons, but the accountants insisted on glass. It is a compromise, and in a car of this stature, one shouldn't have to compromise. The menus are deep, perhaps too deep for someone who simply wants to adjust the lumbar support without consulting a manual the size of a Tolstoy novel. But once you have set the car to your liking, the cabin becomes a sanctuary. It is a place of profound quiet, a cathedral of leather and brushed aluminum. When we move from the stationary to the kinetic, the Panamera EV truly begins to distance itself from its predecessor. The headline figures will tell you that it produces a formidable amount of horsepower and a mountain of torque that arrives the very millisecond you flex your right foot. But 0 to 60 times are for children. What matters to the discerning driver is how the car handles the imperfections of the real world. This car features Porsche's new active ride suspension, and it is nothing short of an engineering marvel. In the past, a car that handled well was inevitably uncomfortable, and a car that was comfortable was inevitably as wallowy as a cross-channel ferry. This system defies the laws of physics. It uses active hydraulic pumps to counter the lean of the body in real time as you enter a corner. The car stays perfectly level. When you brake, the nose does not dive. When you accelerate, the tail does not squat. It is an eerie sensation at first, as if the car is floating 2 inches above the road, disconnected from the violence of the tarmac. On a broken British B-Road, where a lesser car would be skittering and crashing over the potholes, the Panamera EV simply breathes with the surface. It absorbs the impact of a sunken manhole cover with a muffled thump that barely registers in the cabin. This is the confidence we seek. It is the ability to travel at 70 miles per hour in a torrential downpour and feel as though you are sitting in your favorite armchair at the club. The steering, despite being entirely electronic, possesses a weight and a directness that reminds you this is still a Porsche. It does not feel like a video game. There is a genuine sense of the front tire's relationship with the earth. It is a car that encourages you to drive, rather than a car that simply transports you. And what of the death of the Taycan? To understand this claim, one must look at the hierarchy of the Porsche family. The Taycan was the young upstart, the rebel that broke the rules, but it suffered from a lack of space and a range that often left the driver with a nagging sense of anxiety. The Panamera EV solves these problems with the cold efficiency of a professional assassin. It is larger, more comfortable, and thanks to advancements in battery density, it can travel distances that make the Taycan look like a city car. It renders the Taycan redundant because it offers everything the Taycan did, but with the maturity and the prestige of the Panamera nameplate. The Taycan was a car you bought because you wanted an electric car. The Panamera EV is a car you buy because you want a Porsche, and it happens to be electric. That is a vital distinction. There will be those who mourn the loss of the V8 engine, and I am among them. There is no software in the world that can replicate the visceral, mechanical thrum of 8 cylinders working in harmony. The Panamera EV attempts to fill this void with electric sport sound, a synthesized hum that piped through the speakers. To be blunt, it is nonsense. It is a gimmick that should be turned off the moment you leave the dealership. A car of this dignity does not need to pretend to be something it isn't. The silence is its greatest strength. The way it gathers pace without the theatrics of gear changes or rising exhaust notes is its own form of drama. It is a relentless surging flow of power that feels more like a private jet taking off than a motor car. As we reach the conclusion of our journey with this machine, we must pass judgment. We live in a disposable age. We are encouraged to upgrade our phones every 2 years and our cars every 3. Most modern EVs feel like white goods, refrigerators on wheels, that will be worthless the moment a new battery chemistry is discovered. But the 2026 Porsche Panamera EV feels different. It feels like a car that was built to last. It is a formidable piece of engineering that honors the lineage of the great grand touring Porsches while embracing a future that is inevitable. Is it perfect? The screens are a distraction. The lack of a real ignition key is a minor tragedy, and the price tag will be enough to make even a successful man wince. But if you value engineering truth over marketing hype, if you want a car that offers both the comfort of a limousine and the poise of a sports car, then there is no better choice. The Taycan was a fascinating diversion, a glimpse into what was possible. But the Panamera EV is the realization of that potential. It is the king returning to his throne, having finally figured out how to use the new technology without losing his soul. It is not just a gadget, it is a Porsche. And in the year 2026, that is still the highest praise one can give a motor car. It is a definitive buoy for the man who understands that true luxury is not found in a touchscreen, but in the way a car makes him feel when he is 200 miles from home, and the road ahead is clear. The king is back, and he is silent.